Hi everyone, it's Ray here, doing another surrogacy video. I wanted to give an update. I'm sitting in this rocking chair that we got for when the baby comes. It's one of the, I'm trying to show it to you, there's like sliding rockers. And you can see the baby bump here. We are 37 weeks and a few days, heading towards 38 weeks. I don't know if you can see baby stretching right now. Hey there, Emery. Hi. Feels like their back is right here. And their head is down. We confirmed that with the midwife recently. And she showed me how to listen for the heartbeat with the fetal stethoscope, so I can check if I'm ever nervous about it. Definitely need the baby to be head down so that we can have a home birth. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about attachment today, because as the time is coming closer for the baby to no longer be literally attached to my body and like we're no longer going to be one entity. The baby will be separate from my body. It's an important transition. It's a really big transition. And I don't know that a lot of people think about it too deeply, but for some reason it comes up a lot as a question with surrogacy is, are you going to be attached to the baby? This question of like, how do surrogate parents, surrogates become able to emotionally, I don't know what the word is really, like handle, yeah, giving up a baby. And I don't even like using the words giving up, because it doesn't feel like I'm giving up a baby. It feels like I'm bringing a baby into the world, and I'm basically facilitating this connection that the baby has already made to the family that they're going to. Some of you might know that I think about the world in a spiritual way. And so I think that, whoever this baby is has had the intention of coming in and being part of this family in Chicago that has a totally different life than I do. And they're going to be connected. I mean, we're going to be part of their family, the same way that we have in-laws and extended relatives and people in our lives. Or even if you want to think about it the way that people who were married once and then they get divorced and then they live in different parts of the country and whatever, there's lots of different ways that families look. And so, yeah, this baby is coming into a particular family configuration in which I am not their primary caregiver. I am an extended relative. I'm somebody who brought them into the world and their biological mother. And that's important. And it's important for them to know and for them to kind of find their place in the world and understand their story and their history and their biology. And obviously they also have siblings, because I have children of my own. So they have half siblings, and that is an important piece, because how we relate to the people that we're connected to from the time of our birth, it makes a big impact on our lives. And I also know, because I am a queer person, I know that there are ways of making family outside of biology. So there's plenty of biological families out there that are completely broken and toxic and not healthy at all. And so our goal is to be bringing this lovely new being into a family that is accepting and loving and connected. And also not at all traditional. So for me, my perspective is that the more love that a child can have in their life, the more loving connections they can have with caregivers, adults, other children, peers, whatever, the better. Because belonging is about really knowing that you are loved and accepted in the world. And so the more people who show you that, the better. I mean, it would be kind of awful if the only people who ever showed you love were your biological relatives, like your mom and your dad and your siblings, if you have them, or whatever. Like, to me, it's so much more beautiful if you have an entire village surrounding you that's like, we all love you and we want you here and we're so glad that you are who you are. So that's that. And the other piece is, like, for me as a person, I have been thinking about attachment for a long time. I think I first started thinking about it in terms of attachment parenting when I was having my children. So that would have been 6-7 years ago, if you count before Rowan was born. And as a teacher, as an educator, I've had a lot of experience with taking care of children who aren't mine personally, and understanding that in a way, they are mine, and in a way, we all belong to each other. And so this experience that I've had in my life has really given me a sense of everything belonging to everything and everyone belonging to everyone. So the way that I think about belonging and attachment, and even as it relates to, for example, ownership, I don't think about it in the same way I think that a lot of people do, at least the people who are asking this question. Because why would you ask this question about attachment if you understood that we all belong to each other? You just wouldn't need to ask, because you would know. So that's the only thing that I can think, is that people are going in their mind to a place of, well, if you give birth to a baby, it belongs to you, and therefore you own it, and therefore you're attached to it being yours. And so if it's no longer yours when it goes to live with someone else, then that would be painful because you're attached to that baby being yours. And none of that makes any sense to me. It makes sense from an intellectual perspective, like I just logically laid it out, but it doesn't actually ring true for me, because none of those things are true. I don't feel attached to the idea that this baby belongs to me in the sense that it has to stay with me in order to belong to me. When baby Emery goes to live in Chicago, they're not going to not belong to me anymore, any more than my children won't belong to me when they go to live in their new lives when they're older. It's like, it just doesn't make sense to me that possession and ownership is this piece of attachment. So for me, attachment is about being fixated on a certain way of things being. So like, okay, I'm attached to the idea, if I'm attached to the idea that I have to give birth, or I should put it this way. If I'm attached to the idea that I have to personally care for the baby that is going to come out of my body, then not doing that would be painful. It's also interesting to think about where that assumption even comes from. Like, where does this idea come from that the biological mother is required to provide the primary caregiving for their baby, right? It's like, there's definitely something to that. And I don't really want to like go off on that tangent right now because what I want to talk about is attachment. And I really want to stay on that. But I'm just going to leave that. I'm just going to leave that for you. Why is this a thing? So here we have it. I am going to be caring for the baby in the beginning. I'm going to be breastfeeding because I believe that I mean, we know from science, it's not just my personal belief. We know that babies who are breastfed do so much better in terms of their health and their developmental milestones and their growth in general. So as long as possible, as much as possible, I'd like to be able to provide that for Emery, just like I would like to provide that for every baby in the entire world. It's not just because this baby is living in my body. Just want to put that out there. Like if we want the highest good for everyone, and if we truly have love for everyone and we understand that everyone is connected and we're all one, then we start to realize that what I would want for each and every person in the whole world is, of course, what I would want for the people who are closest to me that I actually have the power to give that to. So I have the power and the opportunity to give this baby breast milk. I can't necessarily do that for everyone. I don't have that opportunity. I don't have that power. I am considering donating my milk after, if the pumping goes well. I've never done that before. I didn't have to pump with Rowan and Addie, so I don't know how my body would adjust to that, or if I'll be able to do it, or if it'll be something I can keep up with. But yeah, if I can, it feels like something that would be really, really wonderful to be able to give breast milk to anyone who needs it. So there's that. The other part of that is that people who breastfeed heal faster. So the breastfeeding process actually helps to heal our bodies. It nourishes the baby and it heals my body. Because in a way, even though the baby is going to be outside of my body physically, we're still very much attached in this sort of symbiotic biological relationship. And so ideally, I would say the first 3 months should be like, breastfeeding, and up until the age of 1 even, because there is that symbiotic relationship. And if I lived in Chicago, we could totally do that, but it's just not feasible. I live in Maryland. Air lives in Chicago. He can't be away for 3 months. It's just not a part of our reality right now. And so that's fine. So I'll basically give Emery as much of my breast milk as I can in the beginning, and then once my body is healed and everything is situated, then Emery will go and live in Chicago. And people are, I'm sure, wondering yeah, but won't you feel like you miss the baby? Won't you want the baby back? Won't you, it's like this whole idea of because I think people imagine, when they had a baby, what it would be like if the baby wasn't there anymore. And part of that is because when you had the baby, the whole intention was that you were going to care for the baby and watch them grow up and be their primary caregiver. And that was in your mind, what you were doing. And for me, that's not been in my mind. What I knew from before I decided to be a surrogate was that I felt this desire to have a baby, to bring a baby into the world, and then to not be the primary caregiver. I do not want that. I like sleeping at night. I really, really need my sleep. And yeah, I don't feel like I'm in a place right now where I want to care for a baby all the time. I've thought about possibly babysitting. I love babies, so I could totally go babysit and take care of a baby for a little while and then hand them back to their parents. My children are 6 and 4, and they're relatively independent at this point. I have gotten used to not having a baby to take care of. And I also remember very clearly the amount of work and the full-time care that a baby requires. And I do not want to do that. That is not what I want to do right now in my life. So, because of that, I'm not attached at all to this idea of like, oh, this baby's gonna come out and then I'm gonna care for it and love it and hold it and do all the things for it. Yes, I'm gonna love this baby. I love every baby and every child, and like, of course I do. It doesn't mean that I have to have them like with me. Like this possessive, like, this is mine and like I own it. Like, that's just not a thing that I don't like it. I don't like that mentality. And I also I don't think it's healthy. And I think it's very deeply rooted in the system that we all live in, capitalism. Ownership is very much a capitalist mentality, and I don't think we own people. So I don't think we really own anything. I don't think ownership is really a thing. It's a construct. And when we think we own something, then we're attached to it. And then when we lose it, or when something happens to it, or when it changes, we create suffering for ourselves. So yeah, I think if there are people out there who cannot wrap their mind around this idea of non-attachment, non-permanence, the idea of everyone being one and that we all belong to each other, and that love doesn't mean that you own something, that loving something means that you really see, and you really understand, and you really want the highest good for that being. Yeah, I mean, that's where it's at. So I hope that that helps clarify for some of you this question of, do surrogates become attached to the children that they're bringing into the world? And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Yeah, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.